Hi everyone, my name is Courtney. I write under the pen names Lyra Parish, and I'm one half of the USA Today best-selling duo Kennedy Fox, and today is another cover critique day with Courtney. I am super excited about this series. It is essentially a way for me to kind of help newer authors see what could possibly be wrong or right with their cover, and we're just going to do some research on Amazon. Today's covers come from SD Houston, and it is a young adult fantasy series. She says that it has the subgenres of coming to age, mythology, and ethnic fairy tales and folklore. So I'm super excited about this one. I've already loaded them into Photoshop, so we are going to go ahead and get started with this video. At first glance, I do see that the covers match. Like, that's a good thing. Like, they are cohesive. Like, glancing at this, I know that this is a series. There are some things that I right off the bat notice with it though. Let me guess, is it KU or is it not? I am going to say that it's Kindle Unlimited. All right, so it is a Kindle Unlimited book. Okay, it was published November 1st of 2021. Both of these books are currently available. Book 1 has 17 reviews. Book 2 has 2 reviews. Let's see. Book 2 was released on January 3rd, 2022. So literally just last week. So awesome. Congratulations on your new release. They're priced at $4.99. I like to see that because when you're in Kindle Unlimited and you price a little higher, people are encouraged to borrow instead of buy, which helps your rank. That being said, we've got these two covers. I see that we've got the peacock feathers that match. We've got different types of flowers on the front cover, so you can kind of see the difference. And you've got the book 1 and book 2 clearly displayed. So at a glance, you know which one to start with because the covers are so similar. I have thrown them on top of each other in Photoshop. And let's point out some of the things that I at first glance notice. If we go here and we change the opacity of the first and second book, you can see that the titles don't really line up, and neither do the series name. I like to see the name exactly in the same spot. So if you were to have two books on top of each other and move the first one, like, it's exactly there. I also see that the titles of A and of the are not completely lined up, and the size of Rose and Lily are two different sizes. And I know that the L is shaped a little bit different, but that R, if you look over here, could go down a lot more. When you have covers that are so similar, they should completely match. Like Clash of Goddess and book 1 and 2 should be in the same exact spot. And if you see down here, we'll zoom in, they're not. Another thing that I have issue with is I feel like your text for your name is super hard to read. With the cursive and all of that, it's kind of the same font as your main font, but in thumbnail view, when it's down small like this, I don't really know what that says. Is that a Q? Is that SQ? I don't know. It's very, very hard to read. I think when you put your names on covers, the best thing that authors can do is to use a sans serif font. I will preach that until the end of time. We should not be guessing who the author is, and we should not be guessing what the title is, because if you can't read it on Amazon when it's this big, it's going to be very, very hard for people to go, I resonate with that title. I resonate with that series name, or whatever the case is. When you start having name recognition, people will be like, oh yes, I know that author, and that's a one-click buy for me. Those are some things that I see right off the bat. You did say that it was fantasy and that it had mythical elements, and I don't particularly get that vibe. There are authors who write romance that do flowers and skulls and things of that nature, but from this, I would assume that it's a young adult book, but I don't know if I would get those mythical elements if the series name wasn't on the front of the book. Think about mythical and fantasy. I think of magical elements and things of that nature. But my opinion, as I've mentioned before, is not the holy grail whatsoever. I've just been doing this a long time, and I am going to take you through the process that I go through to research genres, subgenres, and we will do the thumbnail test on your book as well. Since it is Kindle Unlimited, we're strictly going to stay on Amazon. When I do start getting books that are on all platforms. We're going to do some comparisons with Apple, because on Amazon, if you look in the top 100 places, more than likely it's going to be filled with Kindle Unlimited books, because being exclusive gives you the advantage and helps you drop your rank or be closer to the #1 spot than someone who is on all platforms. So with that being said, I think that we should go ahead and head over to Amazon, and we are here on your book page. We're going to go to #1. That D does not look like a D. It seriously looks like a Q to me now that I'm looking at it. And that O, it looks like 2 C's. I don't know how to describe it. If you look down here, you will see products that are related to this item. If you just take a glance at some of the covers down there, you can see what's kind of selling in this same genre, but we're gonna dig down even further than this. So book 1 is ranked 432,584 in the Kindle store. If you look in this subcategory here of the young adult fairy tale and folklore anthologies ebooks you're ranking, I don't know if your book actually should be in anthologies, because it's not. It looks like it's one book, so I would be very careful. I know that Amazon has been cracking down on people who have been putting their books in the wrong subcategories, so I would check that. And the reason for that is because it's not a collection of short stories and it's not a box set, and you can see that here. Of course, there are other people who have their books in this category and it is not a box set, but I think it's harder to compete with someone stating, hey, you're gonna get 5 books for 99 cents compared to your 1 book at $4.99. Book #2 is ranking number 50 in this category. And I know that it's easy to want to put your books in those categories where you can potentially get that orange flag, but this is literally not an anthology. Now, when you box them together, which you should absolutely do when your series is finished and you feel like you've kind of garnered all the sales that you're going to get from your core audience, wait a couple of months and then put it in a box set, so then you can make even more page reads at once or charge more money at once. Then I would use this category. But with that being said, let's go back. You've got teen and young adult Norse myths and legends. This is a good category to be in. Yeah, the top books are Kindle Unlimited. So let's go and look at the ones that are not 99 cents. We want full priced KU books. And we want to see what is selling right at this very moment. I am not going to choose series, because typically when you see on this bestseller page, you've got this chamois Stovall. They are number 3, number 5, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 12. This person is just ranking up the spots in this subcategory, which makes me believe they had a sell on book 1. They did a freebie promo and they're seeing read through from that. We are going to start off by taking some screenshots. So I've got some screenshots for that. Let's go to young adult fantasy. The first 2 spots are sponsored posts, of course. So I just kind of like look past those, and I'm trying to look at also publishing dates, because we want books that were recently released. It does, you know, good to compare your covers with books that were published in 2014. So we need something that's relevant, and we need to look at the prices. We need to look at the reviews. We have to do our due diligence to figure out, you know, what it is that we're trying to search for. We've got teen and young adult royalty, fairy tale, and folklore books is what this one's ranking in. Let me go back to look at coming of age, mythology, ethnic, fairy tales, and folklore. Kind of research these books that are killing it in these subcategories and see if yours actually fits in with that. This is number 1 new release in teen, young adult, royalty, fairy tales, and folklore books. I feel like you could probably put your book in this category as well. This is a Kindle Unlimited book. It is currently ranked 1,184 in the store. It's pretty good. It released on December 30th. Right here is another category that you specifically said that your books would match in. And that's teen and young adult coming of age fantasy category. Harry Potter, we can't compare it to Harry Potter. Like, let's get real. What I'm seeing is there are a lot of books that are illustrations. There are some that have people that are manipulated with, you know, women. I see a lot of women on the cover of young adult fantasy books, and that's freaking awesome. And then illustrated books. If you notice on the ones that actually have women on the cover, they're darkish, but they have bright colors, like this Wolf Kissed. It's like blue and black. And then you've got this Shadow Trails of the Firstborn Academy, and that one is a dark colored, and it's got the light. Moon Kissed, you know. So that's something that I am noticing. Some of these books that are ranking, I find it very hard to read the text. And that's one thing with fantasy that I personally find annoying. People will put this super curly, beautiful cursive text on it, but like, I can't read it. I have no idea what it says without actually looking at the title under the book. We're going to grab this one real quick, and I'm going to go back to this other category. Coming of age fantasy. This might be another good one for you to look at to put your book into. Like I said, let's ignore Harry Potter. Wow, this one actually has a guy on the front. That's the first time I've really seen that. This one has a guy on the front too, but most of it is women or illustrations. That being said, I will say that I think the illustration that you have works, but at first glance, these covers are dark. They have dark blues and blacks, and I know that your covers are green. I just don't think that the wheel really needs to be reinvented when it comes to cover design. If you know what works right now at this very moment, that's the elements that you have to pull from all these best-selling covers and put on yours. And just doing a little bit of research and looking at the prices of the books, the reviews of the books, when they actually released, making sure that they're not 99 cents, that they're full price. I think that's super helpful because, as I've mentioned, when you see books that are like ranking and they're like 99 cents, like, you know that they did a sale. You know that they probably sent it out to their newsletter and had their friends help share it. And they probably got a book bub. I just would keep that in mind. Let's look at this new releases and coming of age fantasy. These are books that just released. You've got Fate's Ransom by Jeff Wheeler. It's got 488 reviews. It's number 4 right now. It's a series, which makes me believe that there is read through going on for this guy's book. It released on January 4th, and today is the 14th. So we've got 10 days and it's ranked 250 in the Kindle store. So he's doing pretty good. Let's look at how he has his series laid out. So if you look across this guy's books, you can see that all laid out across on Amazon. Let me zoom in just a little bit here. If you look across these books, he has his series in all the same spot. He's got his titles in the same exact spot. He has one object that deals with his world that he's created in the same spot, and his name is big on the bottom that is easy to read even in this small view. So even here I can read Jeff Wheeler. I would just keep that in mind when y'all are putting your names on books. Be proud about your author name. Make sure that it's readable. Don't try to reinvent the wheel and use crazy fonts for your name. It gets lost. And you want that recognition that when people see your name, when they read your name, they're like, yes, I'm buying that book. Jeff, you're doing a good job. But let's go back. I'm also going to go back to your book and look at this other category that you've got listed down here. Country and ethnic fairy tales. Okay. So on this one, you can see that it's mixed too. It's illustrated covers, it's people on the cover. This one actually has a man and a woman. It's funny because when you start looking at this, you can see like what people are doing. Another thing that I've noticed for these books is a lot of the authors have their name at the top. That's strange to me, but I write in a different genre and it's typical to have it at the bottom. Some people have it at the bottom, but a lot of the top ones, the name's at the top. That's another thing that I feel like you did really well. It's crazy to see this and to kind of like break it down like that. We've pulled some things from some categories. This is a dark elf fairy tale romance. Let's go look at the subcategories she's using. So you've got that one, young adult about siblings, adult nature and the nature world fiction. I've never seen that category before. So I'm gonna go back to your book and let's look at your rating. 4.5 out of 5. Like, that's great. Like, you have good reviews. I like to look at the keywords that people use as well. And they're saying Irish folklore, mythology, fantasy, leprechauns, kidnapped. And sometimes when you look at this stuff up here, you can kind of get an idea of the keywords that you could potentially use in your KDP dashboard. We've got fairy tale retellings. I'm just taking a glance at what comes up. And when I put in fairy tale retellings, like, your first book is on the first page. Like, that's amazing. So you've done something right with your keywords. Like, if people want that specific type of book, yours is popping up. And I find that awesome. Let's take this one. It looks like it's a newer book. I'm going to go into here because it's a Little Mermaid retelling, see what categories this person's using. Adult country and ethnic fairy tales and folklore. You've got that one. And then teen and young adult fairy tales and folklore ebooks. I'm just going to take a few more. Okay, so fantasy authors, take note. Hardly any like illustrated books like this. Like, that's the first one that I've really seen. It's mostly photo manipulation. I love this cover. Like, this serpent and dove, I'm so, like, my eye is drawn to it. But I am not the intended audience. Take that with how you want. I did used to read a lot of young adult fantasy, but that was back in the day. I haven't really read much of it lately. So it's nice to come back and look through this. I see some books that I have purchased before. That's cool that they're still ranking after all this time. Let's throw some screenshots into here. I got a lot. I went through all your subcategories though, so we can see on a real scale what's actually selling. We can point out real life trends, see if your book competes in the market. Like I said beforehand, like, you don't have to have Photoshop to be able to do this. You can put it in any sort of program that you want, that you're comfortable with. If you're in the process of doing cover design and you're working with a designer, I would say to do this. It will really help you see if your book is on the right track. And trends don't change overnight, guys. Like, this trend has probably been going on like this for a while. And the reason why I say that is because I see books that essentially have been released for years and they still are in the top places. They're blending in with books that are selling like hotcakes right now. That's one of the advantages to getting your cover design right from the very start, because then you won't have to keep updating your covers. These are all the covers that I pulled. Let me make sure I don't have any duplicates, because I know that some of those books were ranking in a lot of subcategories. And this essentially is your subcategories. Most of these are number 1 through 20 spots in your subcategories. And the reason why that is important, because you want to be able to compete with those books. I've laid them all out, and what I see is there are a lot of books that have the name on the top. When we go to your covers, let's move this over a little bit. When we go to your covers, like your name up there, that's fine. That seems to fit in. Another thing that I notice is the fonts. They seem to have a lot of kind of like sans serif cursive mix fonts. It looks like it is a trend. If you look at all of them, like the Crown, that R does that little thing, and the N and the E, and then you've got the Curse, Curse of Shadows, and Kiss of the Selkie. Assassins, Magic is the same way, Dragonbound. All of these pretty much have a font that's close to the font that you've got on your cover for your title. So I think that you are right on track with that as well. I am going to bring this out a little bit. We're going to put your covers inside of this. What I see is, I feel like your font is on point. Of course, you know, I'd like to see it lined up better. I think the font of your name needs to be a sans serif type font that is readable in thumbnail. With the flowers and leaves and stuff up there, like, it just gets completely lost. Also, I would almost change the way that the series name is. I feel like it's hard to read. It's also not lined up. So I would almost suggest that you put the series name in a sans serif as well. Now, when it comes to your name at the top, if you notice on most of these covers where their name is up there, like this one is a perfect example. This Kiss of the Selkie, she's got it where her name actually is not in the imagery. There are some covers though where you can't read the name. This is Sylvia something, but I would consider a font change for that. I would also make your cover just a tad darker. I feel like it does fit in, but most of what you see on here is like dark blues or blacks or purples. You don't see a whole lot of green. Maybe even consider changing that background on your covers so then it is more of a darkish type thing. Like for example, this background to me right here just really sticks out. Like it looks beautiful. Also this one too, where it's got the teals and the green. It's like kind of like a mixture. And then this purple and orange one too, like my eye is drawn toward that. I think that if you change the background color to a darker color and you kept your text in white like you have it and kept the green on the leaves and the flowers and all of that, that this cover will pop more. Like I said before, the text of your title is on point. It matches your genre and your subgenres amazingly. So I think that that was a good thing. Change your name font, make it where it is more readable, and possibly change the name of your series. If you look down here on, I know I keep going to this Tessa girl's book, she's got a Little Mermaid retelling entangled with Fae down here at the bottom where it's kind of like on its own as well. I think that's a really good design choice because you know what you're getting. She's literally put it on the cover. So if you have no idea what a Selkie is or any of that, like you know this is going to be a retelling. And I feel like that is a great thing to have, although it's not like a series name. But if you did something like that on the bottom of your cover where you have your series name, put a fairy tale retelling or a mythical fairy tale retelling or something like that, it could potentially help you sell more books. I also noticed on here that a lot of people don't really put their series names like loud and proud. There are a few on here, but not a whole lot, and they're not out there in the open. So like on this Moonfire Bride, I know that you can barely read the text because it was taken in thumbnail view. Down there is where her series name is. The bottom here is where this series name is. Some of these books that the series name, it looks like they don't really care to really put it out there where it's like big and bold like this. So I think that you could potentially make that text smaller and more readable. If you change that background, it's gonna pop. So I am going to say yes, these covers do compete in the current market. So congratulations, SD. I think that they really fit in with the genre. There are some tweaks that I would suggest. So to wrap it all up, my suggestions are as follows. Change the font of your name, change the background of these covers so then they are darker, dark blue, even like hunter green, black, and have the same kind of texture that you have right now, because a lot of these covers, they are textured with backgrounds. Your name up top is fine. I would just be aware that when you have embellishments like that at the top of your cover and you put text on top of it, it makes it very hard to read. I would line up where your series name is. Right now, the word lily and the word rose are not on the same line. Of the and of a are not really lined up with each other, like if you put them on top of one another. So I would have that lined up better. I would put your series name in the same exact spot. That's my suggestions. I think that if you were to do a cover redesign, I would wait until these have gotten old, have kind of like used their lifespan, and then I would rebrand them in a few years to have a woman on the front of the covers that are bright like this. Now, if you don't personally like these covers, if you feel like they are not selling, even if you do a cover update, and then I would wait until all the books are published. And then after you start a new series and you work on that for a little while, then relaunch the series again with new and updated covers that have a woman on the front. Because they're obviously selling if there are so many women on the covers like this. And what I noticed is there's a lot of blonde women. Like if you scroll in here, like she's blonde, she's blonde, she's blonde, she's blonde, she is too. You've got 3 women who have dark hair. This cover right here, this Eternal Rain, sticks out to me. But you don't see a lot of covers where the woman's just straight in the middle in this genre and subgenre. I would also change that anthology subcategory because it's not an anthology and you don't want Amazon to be like, hey, you did something that you weren't supposed to do and put your book in a category that it doesn't really belong in. Because like I said, they are cracking down on that. They have deactivated people's accounts over it and they have bots that are searching Amazon right now. I would look at the books that are in the top 100 places of your subcategories and see what categories they are in as well. And if you don't know the keywords to get in those categories, email Amazon in the back of your KDP dashboard. I'm going to go back to your book page real quick and do a quick look on that because y'all seem to have liked that the last time. At the very top, we've got a debut novel from SD Houston. It's a fairy tale retelling of Snow White and Red Rose mashup with Irish mythologies. I would put this at the bottom. Like I said in my last video, you want people to be hooked from the very beginning, and this right here that you have, triplet sisters, one dead, one kidnapped, a vengeful leprechaun, and a scheming goddess, can Lily save her last sister? That's a hook. That's a great hook. Like, I want to know what happens. That should be the very first thing that your readers see. When you move this line right here off the top, you will get this whole paragraph right here. So you have to imagine that this is all that your readers are going to see. That's what I would do. Also, I noticed that you do not have any Amazon A+ going on with your books. I would go into your back office and update that. When you set your books up for publishing, don't put a reading age. It's not necessary. Just leave it blank. If you leave it blank, there will be nothing there, and it won't force your books to those categories because you guys know that adults are reading young adult. Probably more adults than young adults are reading young adult books. I would suggest to not put that reading age there. You've got your pricing set at a good price for the first book. It's at $3.99. I would potentially, right before your third book releases in this series, do a freebie sell, get people to download that first book, do some newsletter advertising, push people through your series. So then when you release that final book, you will have an audience waiting for it. Make sure your back matter is updated. I haven't looked at it. And I would say to increase your paperback. I know you've got it at $9.99, but girl, those are prices from like 2011. You deserve to be paid for your work. This is a beautiful cover. You know, it does need a few updates, but for the most part, I feel like it fits the genre, and you can sell your paperbacks for $12.99 at minimum. Like $9.99, I don't even care that it's 176 pages. Like, up your paperback prices. Do it. That's all the suggestions that I have for you. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out. Also, as I mentioned in my previous video, Brooke Passmore has offered to design covers for you guys. This is her website. I did not forget to put it this time. You can email Brooke as well here. If you watch this video and you would like to get your covers redesigned, anyone who watches it, Brooke has offered 10% off. If I do a video with your cover, then she has offered 20% off. And as I mentioned before, if you would like me to look at your book cover before you finalize it with Brooke and tell you my thoughts and feelings or whatever, because I've already done like the thumbnail test and kind of know what's going on for your genre, you can always send it to me and I can be like, yeah, this is good, or I would change this, or I tweak this, or whatever. So that is an added advantage of, you know, using Brooke. I think it's a good opportunity for everyone. Brooke is still new, and I find that when you work with newer designers and you let them know what you want with your covers, you can get something that's really nice from a cover designer who is not jaded or a jerk, because I've dealt with many of those, who wants to make you happy. So there are advantages to working with new designers. You get to grow together and you get to work together. So it's an opportunity for everyone. Also, Brooke is really good at fantasy. I've seen some of the pre-mades that she made, and like, just looking at these fantasy covers with these women, I'm like, yeah, Brooks nailed it with that. She's like right on point and brand if you want a female on the front of your YA fantasy book. So that's all I have for today, guys. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. If you would like to send me your cover, I am just going in order of how I receive them. You can submit your cover to me as well. My email address is lyraparish@gmail.com. Just make sure to put in the subject that it is for the thumbnail test. I need to know your genre genres along with your subgenres and anything that will be helpful with me doing research on your stuff. I will go to your Amazon page. I will look at the way that your blurb is. I will look at your pricing. I will look at your subcategories, because I find that a lot of newbies tend to put their books in the wrong subcategories, and that only hurts you. It doesn't really help you. I'm really enjoying the series. I'm so glad that you guys are too, and that's all I have. So I hope that you guys have an amazing, incredible week. You accomplish all your goals and you write all the words, and I'll see you again in my next video.